is very, very important. And that's why, Mr. President, I will have to appeal to you to speak by giving the facts. Just continuing from where distinguished Senator Kakeshew stopped. In Chad, that is one of the black spots. We have joint task force already, but they are not equipped. They are not well trained. They are not motivated. In fact, the joint task force is headed by a Nigerian from Yobe State, General Yusuf. Now, what happened was actually all this while, they know the line. They have like a border with the Chad Republic, and they never go there. When they went there and killed their people, the president led the operations, and that was what led to their success, and they moved over, and the first target is to dislodge our military around that Kereto and cut it away. In terms of replacing what the Chadian president led and recovered from them. What we need to do is still the same, sir. The Chadian government led the operation by their president. We are not saying that we should do that, but there should be a special operation because this problem is cancerous and is expanding. We are talking about them in Sokoto, Kebbi now. We are talking about them in Niger. They are going to Plateau. They are drawing the second cycle. The main purpose of government is security and welfare of its citizens. It's there in our constitution. We cannot change it. So everything should be focused on security. Because if we say it's Borno today, and we need to discuss it slightly, saying that we should talk about it in 2 minutes, it will one day get to Kano. God forbid. But it tried to get to Kano. The Kano people stood up. That was how Kano is still standing. If not, the late Ado Bayero was nearly killed. So, Mr. President, this is an occasion where the Senate must be responsible. We should stand up to the occasion and demand. The the Senate president before, Senator Amelan, during his tenure, three times, we set up a committee. And at one time, we invited everybody. We pushed, and you were the chairman appropriation then, and we pushed the government to approve 809 billion to procure the Tucano. But it was wrongly used. You went and procured Tucano while we needed attack helicopters. If we have attack helicopters around that area now, this Boko Haram will not even go there because the Chadians went there with only 2 attack helicopters. Right now, the joint task force you are talking about have only 1 helicopter. So the Senate should, the mover of the motion should amend this motion, and let's be blunt about it. Let's ask the government to do the right thing. And I'm sure that if we tell the president, ho-ha, what to do, he will do it. He will do it. So let us stand up as Senate. We are just approving a borrowing, about 2.2 billion, to fund the budget. What budget if we are not secured? So, Mr. President, I'm sorry, I've taken much more time, but let us take this thing more serious. It can be done in 1 week. It can be done.
Thank you very much. Even the Super Tucano.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this again is an indication that we are not able to capture every piece of our land from the insurgents. That is unfortunate. But before I comment on what we need to do, let me commend our military for working so hard to ensure that we secure our lands and protect our territorial integrity. Mr. President, the story is we don't have enough boots on the ground. So we need a task force of some sort that the military is able to occupy areas that it could capture, and the police and other security agencies will now be moved in to reestablish civilian authority. Mr. President, Boko Haram was defeated at one point almost completely. Some will say technically defeated. But what is important to an average citizen is not technically or completely. Our citizens, our indigents need safe and secured towns and cities and hamlets. So the case of our brother from Borno North is a case that we must ensure that we do something. This we can do together with the executive arm of government. In the prayers, I think the request is for the Air Force and the Army. This is a normal joint operational activity. And therefore, the Chief of Defense Staff is supposed to be at the helm of this particular affair, and the services can come in. But we are also lucky, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that we are yet to pass the budget for 2025. We should look at this, and indeed similar areas that are challenged in this kind of situation. Because no matter what we do, no matter how hard we wish and we could provide infrastructure, the infrastructure can only be useful to the people if they are safe and protected. So I believe that we should tailor some resources in this area, and let's find out which are the areas. Is it in the northwest? Is it in the north central? Is it in the southeast or south-south or southwest that are not in our hands? We need to recapture them. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the privilege.
Senate. This Senate, when I say this Senate, not the 10th Senate, listening to some of the contributions, we have to agree that we too, as senators, could do better through our military oversight functions. Somebody mentioned that we bought the wrong helicopters to Kano or whatever, and that we're supposed to buy gun attack or whatever. What was the role of the Senate oversight function to ensure that we don't just buy equipment, we buy what is appropriate? If the military chiefs have reasons to do differently, the purpose of our oversight is to refocus procurement to coincide with what we believe is most suitable. But my challenge is, can we claim to know better? We not being military people, not having had the opportunity of being trained, we seem to know what ought to be procured, rather what has been procured. For me, the challenge, therefore, is, like someone said, throwing money at a problem doesn't solve it. And in an earlier motion, prayers are added. So I think earlier in the year, I talked about the need for our committees involved in defense, army, navy, air force, not only to make the case for more spending, but to ensure that when we have appropriated, that monies are used to procure the things we need to enhance the competence of our people. Lastly, we should say nothing in these chambers as if to suggest that the army is not doing something. a lot of young men, a lot of officers and men have paid the supreme price fighting Boko Haram and other security and other criminals in different parts of the country. So even in a moment like this, when we are in pain, we are worried about the seemingly endless nature of this challenge, we mustn't fail to acknowledge, because I do know a number of very promising young men, officers and men that have been wasted, I wouldn't say wasted, who have paid the supreme price so that we can be safe. That they have not put an end to it should not make us to make comment that may be demoralizing. We should acknowledge the price they have paid. We should put them in our prayers, and I want us to challenge our committee on defense, our committee on army and navy to go beyond procurement and do proper oversighting and refocus the procurement policies of the armed forces. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. The motion is on the need to deploy adequate security personnel to endangered local government areas in Borno State. The Senate notes that for many years, Borno State has been bedeviled by insurgency, with communities facing one form of attack or the other every now and then. Aware that recently relative peace has been restored in Borno State due to efforts of the Nigerian armed forces, which are commendable. However, some communities are still besieged by insecurity, as Guzamala local governments do not have any civil authority in place, no military presence, while Abadam and Marte local government areas need security reinforcement. Also aware that the aforementioned areas are predominantly agrarian communities, with Marte local government area being known for large-scale production of wheat and rice. Worried that communities in those areas are still under the captivity of Boko Haram, and the people have been suffering untold hardship as a result of the insecurity which has damaged the local economy, infrastructure, and livelihoods herein. And also worried that the absence of military personnel in the areas may cause the insurgents to become more emboldened and attempt to capture surrounding communities, thus ruining the previous efforts by the government to secure the state. Accordingly resolves to urge the Nigerian armed forces to establish a super camp at Guzama local government area and mobilize adequate personnel to secure Abadam and Marte local government areas of Borno State, and mandate the committees on Army and Air Force to ensure implementation. Mr. President, distinguished senators, it may interest you to know that local government, Guzamala local government, which is one local government from my senatorial district, and a neighboring local government to my own local government of Monguno, is completely under the control, tight control of Boko Haram insurgents, because of the fact that not a single security personnel is found in the whole local government. As a result, civil authority is lost, and Boko Haram are effectively in control of that local government. They have imposed taxes on people, they have imposed levies on people, and there is no security personnel to challenge them, and there is no civil authority that is in existence in that local government because of the presence of Boko Haram and the tight control, the total control they have in that local government. So therefore, we are craving for the indulgence of this Senate to direct the Nigerian military to make their presence felt with a view to repelling the Boko Haram insurgents in that local government, because if we allow them to exist in that local government, they will be further emboldened and have all the luxury to organize and attack other neighboring local governments, particularly my own local government of Monguno and other neighboring local governments, that peace has been restored, civil authority has been restored, and people are started going back to their respective communities to pick the pieces of their lives. So it is very important that this local government is secured and this local government is redeemed from the tight control of Boko Haram, as well as Abadam and Marte local government that though we have military presence, but they are equally challenged. We need further reinforcements in these two other local governments while complete repelling of Boko Haram in one local government of Guzamala. Thank you.
Sorry. The former president of the Senate, Senator Amelon. Thereafter, Senator.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I remain Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu Sarkin Yakin Kefi, the famous horse rider. Of course, the importance of this motion cannot be overemphasized. And I think by all intent and purposes of commitment, our colleagues have spoken and virtually have said it all, with the exception of what I am going to say. Regardless of where these bandits are from, they are locally incubated or internationally coordinated. They cannot achieve their set objectives fully in any local environment if they do not have some level of support of the natives or locals there. And so, to weaken them is one of the things that makes it much easier for them to recruit our youth is because of poverty. Hunger is a major vehicle of poverty, violence, and every negativity that obtains today in every society. So all I'm trying to say, in looking for ways to alleviate this problem, we must also talk about the situation that the citizens of this country are in. An average Nigerian citizen is entangled in poverty. Of course, efforts are being made across board by governments to see that solutions or hunger or poverty is adequately taken care of in the country. But much more needs to be done. And if we take care of poverty, of course it will reduce the rate at which these bandits recruit our youth into their activities. So for me, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, as representatives of the people here, we must at all times ensure that we give support, and not only give support, we look for ways and means that Nigerians, the situation of Nigerians will be better cushioned so that they remain focused and, of course, nationalistic in their thinking and conduct. I so contribute. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, once more, we are faced with another round of debate and speeches on the issue of insecurity. I seize this opportunity, therefore, to sympathize with my colleague and brother, Senator Mongunu, and commiserate with the families of those affected in this current imbroglio. Mr. President, it is sad that we are talking about this issue in spite of the spirited efforts by the government and the armed forces of Nigeria and all other security agencies involved in combating the menace of insecurity. Mr. President, as rightly pointed out by the mover of this motion, time was when the activities of Boko Haram was literally wiped out or decimated. But we will continue to have this recurring decimal in Borno in particular, and then in some other parts, other forms of insecurity activities taking place. Mr. President, like he rightly pointed out, there was a time that this thing was literally nipped in the bud. But unfortunately, I think that what we failed to do was taking some proactive measures to ensure that these insurgents did not come back to the cities. At a point, the idea of holding forces was muted, in which it was agreed that a special force be trained specifically to hold the liberated areas where Boko Haram activities were taking place. But unfortunately, Mr. President, as it were, nothing of that nature has happened. And so it becomes very easy for Boko Haram and its agents to come back to areas that have been liberated by our armed forces. Mr. President, I think it was suggested on the floor of this Senate before that it doesn't solve our problem if we continue to debate and proffer solutions to the problem of insecurity, especially the activities of Boko Haram, if we do not muster the sufficient courage to give a kind of timeline to our armed forces and our security agents to nip these insecurity activities across the country. Mr. President, I think it is not correct, because I know that the Nigerian military and security agencies are professional enough to know when to start a war and when to end a war. I am not sure that those of us who are living witnesses to the Biafran war noticed that the Biafran war took this long to nip in the bud. Whether it is asymmetrical or normal war, I think that we must find answers to the solution to the problem of our insecurity. And so once more, while I sympathize with the people of the local government occupied by the Boko Haram insurgents, I want to urge the armed forces and our security agents to take very proactive actions in liberating these communities from the hands of these insurgents. I thank you, Mr. President.
It was Borno, but it is everywhere now. Most of us cannot easily visit and dine with our electorates because our villages are no more safe. President of the Senate and my colleagues, even 3 days ago, my constituents were killed by these terrorists. I personally feel, just as contributed by Senator Ahmed Lawal, that the 2025 budget is about to come to us. I feel that apart from acquiring more weapons, we need more recruit of personnel into our security agencies, because the ratio of our population to security personnel is very low. We must deliberately appropriate more funds for recruitment of our youths into the security forces. When we have that, sir, it will take care of unemployment and will also provide security to our people. Our villages are not safe. And if our electors are not safe, we are not safe too, sir. I pray that...
Thank you very much. Your time is up.
Thank you, sir. I agree, sir.
My name is Senator Ned Nwoko. I represent the good people of Delta, North Delta State. Mr. President, just aligning myself with most of the speakers, but particularly the last speaker, our horse rider, Senator Aliu. It's just the fact that there's insecurity across the nation. And we keep talking about it and keep thinking that empowering our soldiers or our police is the solution. I take a different view. I've always said that we must look at the reasons why people are agitating, why people are fighting, why they are willing to carry guns to be killed or kill. You know, we all know, for instance, that tomorrow we are expected to be in Anambra State for the burial of our departed colleague, Senator Uba. But most of the senators that you ask are unwilling to go to Southeast because of the dangers posed by those who are disgruntled. And we cannot have a nation where some parts of the country are no-go areas. It just doesn't make any sense. My solution is a very simple one, and I've said it and I keep saying it. We need to have a national dialogue. We need to bring all the dissenting voices, all the groups that are agitating for one thing or the other. Mr. President, let's talk to them. Let's talk to them, just that the IRA and the British government did over some time ago. You know, we just need to dialogue. That is the only way we can resolve this. But if we just keep thinking that it's about pumping money to the military or buying some attack helicopters, it just wouldn't work. Because you can't kill ideas just with barrels of gun. And most of these people have resolved to die because of how they have seen themselves over time, deprived, denied, degraded. So, Mr. President, let's look at some other solutions. Whilst I support this particular motion, yes, I do support it, because we must have some interim measures, but let's look at long-term measures. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Adam Oshomo, President Trump administration that sold the Super Tucanto. So we thank Senator Trump for doing that. Having mentioned Nasarawa and Plateau, let me yield the ground. Otherwise, we'll have closed the debate. So, Senator from Plateau, Senator Plan, you have the floor. Then we have Senator from Nasarawa, Senator Wadada. Oh, he's not even here. Oh, okay, around, okay. Okay, Senator Plan.
President of the
30 minutes, we'll come back 30 minutes after.
Distinguished.
Those in favor of the motion moved by the Senate leader and seconded by the minority leader, please say aye. Those against say nay. The Senate therefore adjourns to resume in the next 30 minutes. That's all. Do we give you time to speak on that? But they need time to go and prepare the votes and proceed. They just told me now. So please, Senator Ndume, order please. Order please. I appeal to you to speak for 2 minutes so that we can go and prepare the votes and proceedings. Otherwise, it will be too late for them to prepare the report, and the entire transaction in respect of the loan will now be in jeopardy if you don't get everything done within this short time available to us. Former leader of the Senate, you have the floor.
Thank you very much.
And distinguished colleagues, my name is Kakashehu Lawan. I represent the good people of Borno Central Senatorial District. Let me first and foremost commend Senator Mohamed Tahir Monguno, the Chief Whip of the Senate, for bringing this motion to the Senate, and also sympathize with him with what is happening in his senatorial district. Let me also join my leader, the former Senate President, in supporting the motion ably moved by Senator Monguno. Mr. President, sir, prior to my election as a senator, I was the chairman of a committee set up by Borno State government to relocate the IDPs that were dislodged by Boko Haram in their various communities. I know the terrain very well. The Nigerian military had Operation Hadinkai, Sector 1 in Monguno, the headquarters of Monguno local government. And then the multinational joint task force also had its Sector 3 headquarters in Monguno. But Mr. President, it will interest you to note, Borno North Senatorial District comprised of 10 local government areas. and it is a very vast land. Now, the military agreed, they are overstretched. But then, Borno North share borders with the Republic of Niger and Chad. They use the territorial waters of Lake Chad and Nigeria, the territorial waters between Lake Chad and Nigeria, to navigate themselves their ways into Nigeria and find a safe haven. Imagine a local government headquarters without a single military deployment, and then locals were staying there. So the havoc caused by these miscreants is very serious. So we need to nip this thing in the bud by urging the military to establish not only a super camp, but let them deploy, despite the fact they are overstretched, let them have a permanent deployment in Guzamala, the headquarters of Guzamala local government area. While I also associate myself with the former Senate President that there must be a joint task force to supplement or rather complement the efforts of the military in wiping out this Boko Haram entirely. Just a couple of days ago, they launched a serious attack on Kareto, a very popular town in Borno North Territorial District, where they carted away serious military hardware. So that is very dangerous. If something is not done, they are going to continue their nefarious activities in that senatorial district and possibly escalate to other senatorial districts. Mr. President, one fact is very clear. They had a similar attack on the Chadian troops in the Republic of Chad. The president took it upon himself to command the troops of Chadian forces and wipe out these guys. So in so doing, they are now trespassing into the territorial integrity of Nigeria, the territorial borders of Nigeria, where we don't have military deployment, that is their safe haven. So something has to be done immediately by curtailing this ugly terrain. I so support, Mr. President. Thank you.
Minority Leader, sorry, we have to shift this way.
Ngono Mohammed Tahir.